Hello, hello. How are you? This is Tyra, and I want to come on today to again just kind of talk about some of the secrets for that I love to share with people that help me be successful as a mom in raising my children. So, today I want to talk about trust. Hello, hello. Yes. So this is the second installment that I'm making in this series that's about my secrets to success. People ask me regularly, how are you so successful? What did you do right with your children? And I answer humbly, regularly, that it was, it's just a choice I made, honestly. It's what I feel. I feel very fortunate to have my husband. We are, I should say. I'm thinking in the past in terms of like our children being minors, and they're not minors anymore, but we were and we are um just a great team. We complement each other very well. We respected each other's differences in approach to parenting. And fortunately, my husband and I were able to put ourselves aside and to do the work that we needed to do to be the parents that our children needed to be, and it just worked. Also, I give my children a lot of credit because they they are who they are. And I think that what my husband and I did really well was just we were able to get ourselves out of the way enough so our children could be who they were born to be. And when a child is allowed to be who they authentically are, then people will look in awe at them. It's like they are just doing so well. And that's not to say that my children don't have frustrations and they don't have challenges in life. That's not that at all. But um, I just think it's easier for them to navigate the hard parts of life, and it's easier for them to maximize the good parts of themselves and the good things that life brings because they just were given so much room and space to be who they are born to be. So, and of course, I always, honor the higher divine wisdom. My husband would say God, I would just say the universe, and just all the spiritual guides that support us here in the physical realm, as well as we have family and we have community. So you will hear me say that over and over again because no matter how much I talk about what I've done, truly, I have had so much support. So I'll always have to make sure I give credit to where credit is due. And so now I'll move forward with sharing with you my part because I'm proud of what I have done as a mom. And I think what I share is not necessarily for you to do verbatim. It's like you have to figure out your own way. And then the first one that I created, I talked about how it's important to understand your child, and each child that you have, you will have to be a different mom to each child. There are some things that you can do universally for each child, but in general, children are very unique. And so learning how to show up for your child. And so it's mostly about understanding the big picture, and then you figure out how to make that work for you. I'll give you another example, and I am gonna get to trust, but again, I mentioned in the first installment that I'm new to sharing my homeschool wisdom, and so these are a little bit stream of conscious. So, yes, you have to figure out your way of applying what it is that I'm sharing, and I completely lost my thought in trying to explain that I'm stream of conscious, but hopefully it'll come back. But yeah, you will have to figure out your own way. So it came back to me. Thank you. So one thing to know about me, and I say this with a lot of respect and a lot of love, but I was raised up in a home where there was trauma. And so I entered my adult life very traumatized. I give thanks that I never experienced any trauma or physical violence to my body. But there was violence in my home. My father was an alcoholic, through most of my childhood, and it was just a lot. It was a lot to deal with, and so I pretty much came into life, no official diagnosis, but when I look back on it, I came into adulthood with maybe PTSD. um, and so my approach to becoming the mom that my children need to be will be very different. Say, for instance, someone like my husband who was not raised up in trauma. My husband's parents, they just, it just wasn't there. There were the challenges, but in general, that was a very calm family and peaceful. And, like I said, I know my in-laws, like so many parents, had their challenges. They told me about them. I know this. But in general, one thing about my husband, he's just so like unto himself. He's very grounded. And so his approach to parenting and being the dad that our children needed is very different. I have had to do a lot of um, healing work and self development work. I have to spend a lot of time asking, am I acting this way with my child, or am I responding to my child in this way? Um, because something is wrong with me, this is my trauma, or is this appropriate? And so I had mentioned in the last installment how I had to make a choice to not yell. And also, I always wanted to be a non spanker, but I had to really check myself at times. So, for instance, um, I remember one time, and this is embarrassing for me to admit, but I'll tell you all because, first of all, it changed the course of my life. And secondly, maybe I can help somebody avoid this. So my older son, he was not walking yet, but he was probably getting close to 1, was in his car seat, and he got upset with me. And he hit me, or well, he did not hit me. I mean, come on, a one-year-old will not, even if a one-year-old smacks you, they just got lucky, right? Some little babies, their hands will be a little bit heavy, but um, yeah, it was like a hit. I'm gonna say it that way. That was his intention. He was upset with me, and that was the way he was expressing himself. And so it just ignited something in me. It made me so angry. And, I talked about in the last installment how parents just don't want to be embarrassed. Well, in the Black community, I'm African American, we don't play that. Like when we were raised up, we would be like, you know what? You hear white kids talking crazy to their parents, or it was just like white folks do stuff that Black kids we just cannot get away with, and white parents would take stuff from their kids that our parents never would take. It was just like this big. It was like something we knew. And if you're white and you're listening, I know that's not across the board. It's definitely a generalization, but it's my truth. It just seemed like white kids could get away with some stuff. And if a Black child even thought of hitting their parent, it was like, this is it. It's the end of your life. And so I just kind of had that training, like, you don't ever let your child do this to you. Now, this is like not even a 1-year-old child. Okay. This is a little baby. And so it just like the only thing I can think about, it was like a button got pushed. Here I am thinking I am this really soft and gentle and calm person, but that button got pushed and I became a raging maniac. I would even label myself B with that word. I'm streaming this and I do not want to get dinged on these platforms. So I took his hand, and this is the mom who's committed to gentle guidance. I'm a La Leche League leader at this point. Maybe I'm not a La Leche League leader, but I was definitely a part of it and on my way. I took his hand, I laid it in my hand, and this is why I say babies are smart. These are not clueless little people. I raised my hand up to smack his little precious little hand in my hand because I was so angry. And being the quick-witted, smart little baby he is, he snatched his hand away before I could hit his hand. And when I smacked my hand, I lost my breath. I thought, "Dang, that was hard as bleep." Oh my goodness. I cannot like, the thought that went through my mind was not that I missed him. The thought that went through my mind is, "I can't even believe I was about to hit my kid like that." And so, it was like those kinds of moments where I was like, "Oh my gosh, something is wrong because this is not who I am. This is not what I want, and I've gotta make some changes quick, fast, and in a hurry." And so, I just began to slowly change myself and shift myself to make sure that I would catch myself before I did anything too extreme. And it was just like I could see all of the violence and this knee-jerk reaction, and it helped me to realize just how angry I was on the inside from my childhood, maybe some unexpressed anger, as well as just completely and totally wounded. And I was like, "I've gotta fix myself, because my biggest goal was I don't wanna be the reason my children are in therapy. They might go for therapy for something else. I don't wanna be the reason." So, um, with that, I realized I have to take a different approach, and I've ever since I've been a mom, there's just so much I'm constantly looking at to get myself to a point where I feel more of like a normal person who has normal reactions, also who has control of her, emotional responses, and I can choose a response and not just be knee jerking it. And my biggest thing was I wanted to be humane with my children. I don't believe in hitting children. I just believe we have to teach children, and that doesn't mean that we are doormats to children because, people just want to go so extreme when we're thinking about don't hit your child. Um, it's like either you hit your child or you're a doormat. No, no. You you commit to I am going to help my child understand because children are teachable. And when we stop and take that time, that's one of my secrets. Number one, I healed myself. I continually, I'm looking to see where am I off. Number two, the next thing is how can I get my child to understand their programming? How can I get my child to understand this is how we will do things in the most humane way possible? The last recording I made, I said the most gentle way. Another one would be humane. Okay. Um, and so for me, it just boils down to that. Like, how can I do this? And so hitting a child is not humane. I don't hit you. I don't hit anybody. And in my mind, how am I going to be hitting my child who I say I love more than the whole wide world? Those the only people in the world I'm gonna hit, not doing it. All right. And if this bothers you, you can just make the choice that you're gonna do things in the way that you want to do. But I'm here to offer something different. People want to know my secrets. If you're listening to this is my secret. Not gonna hit. Doesn't mean that I didn't lose my cool every now and again and resort to that, especially once my children got a little bit older and, you know, it was so rare that I lost my cool like that, and it was literally after I had tried everything else, and I'm just like, "This is I'm just gonna try this out," and they would just kinda look at me like, "Yeah, that didn't work." Okay, anywho, um So, and I will tell you my foibles. I will not sit here and act like I'm some perfect mom. My children don't remember. Maybe my younger son remembers one time when he was a little bit older. He went through a really rough time. He was probably a tween, and it was just like off the rails. The argument we were having, and it was just getting to be too much. And I was like, let me see if I just pop him one time with that shock. With that shock. And it did not work. I did not do it again. Plus they're stronger than their moms after a while. So I was like, let me tone this down. I really and truly am gonna have to, you know, I'm gonna have to just wait this out. I don't know what's going on. I'm gonna have to wait it out. So, and now that wasn't without. So let me go back to what I was saying. Parents either think you spank or you're a doormat. Well, no, you do have to take up the like. I have expectations, and I had I don't want to call them rules because it wasn't really rules, but it was more of like there's boundaries and borders that once you start crossing them, then this is it's not okay. And this is where having my husband was amazing, or other people in their lives that they really respected for some reason. For well, definitely with my husband, kids just have this natural fear of dad. Like my husband never talked about spanking my kids or anything. We both were on the we're not spanking our children. He is a child advocate and began to realize the detriment of corporal punishment and spanking children to a child's development. And so we always would take this path of we're going to guide you. But there's certain things that are just not gonna we're not having this. There are gonna be consequences to what you're doing. And I will up the consequences. See, I was one of those mamas, attachment parenting 100%. Within the attachment parenting community, I always looked like I was a little bit strict, because my thing was I have black boys, and so they are not afforded certain opportunities of being granted grace that other boys are granted. Every other one, not just white boys, every other one that is not black, okay, gonna be granted something, especially as they get older, that my boys are not granted. And the other thing in me was my children are not gonna disrespect me. And so there's a certain level of attachment parenting where I'm like, no, this is borderline disrespect. Because my thing is, who is the adult in the room? I believe in my children, um, in their that like there's an innate wisdom in them. I talked about the acorn and how the acorn has in the last recording, how the acorn has everything in it that will so that a mighty oak tree can come into existence. And it's the same for us. So I know that is there for children. And at the same time, children expect parents, they expect caregivers to be the adults in the room, to protect them, to help them to understand this is what we do in in our society, especially when it comes to things that are respectful. Okay. Now, if we're trying to instill something in them that's an opinion about somebody else, that's different. But truly, like, it's okay if we can wait our turn. That's really okay. It's really okay if we're sharing with other people. It's really okay if you're not the center of attention. It's really okay if you decide that you are not going to be letting people bully you or whatever, things that truly make a society one that works for everybody. That's what I'm talking about. But in that, sometimes it depends on the child's age. There are times when I would get more firm. That's the word I've been looking for. How firm do you want me? Do I need little child to speak? Can I just say at one time? Or, hey, sometimes children are just, they're going to buck the system and they're not disrespectful. They just buck the system. I haven't talked about trust one time. Oh my gosh. Okay, let me get there. But anywho, they're gonna buck the system. And so they will it's like, okay, you're not listening to me talking with this tone. I will get firmer. I will begin to give consequences. And for me, it's all about guidance. Like every time I was working to get my child, and I remember someone in La Leche League when she had a little one who was hitting, he was about 15, 18 months, something like that. And he was just popping everybody in the play group, just hitting everybody. And she said, she just simply would go to her child and say, "We do not do that. We do not hit like that. We do not hit. That's not okay. We're not hitting our friends. We do not hit." And she just repeated it over and over and over. And eventually, she said her son grew up to be one of the most chill people ever. I remember my oldest son, he was pretty spicy when he was younger. He grew up to be a taekwondo, like third degree black belt, and he's in the military. So he's always had the fight in him, okay? But he is one of the nicest people you will ever meet. He don't want no heat. He's not trying to fight folks just for the sake of fighting. So it is true when it's like, okay, we're not doing that right now, you know? They're so smart. They're gonna get it. So let me segue into trusting yourself before I have to end this. Is whoa. So I remember, I'm gonna see if I can find this quote actually. I did a speech, and the speech is here on my channel for a local homeschool um, co-op that my younger son was a part of. And I used a quote, and I said I wanted to talk about this quote today. It's by John Holt, who is considered the father of unschooling, which I did unschool my children for their early years. I would say unschooling for me was from kindergarten through third. Once we got to fourth and fifth, yeah, sixth, fourth, fifth, sixth, I was more of like Charlotte Mason, Maria Montessori. Those were that was the philosophy I switched to for around, I guess you could say from like fourth through eighth. Well, no, fourth through about sixth. And so unschooling is definitely something I believe in. And for me to be an unschooler is something that was important for me to, even though I did not use unschooling as they got older, because my older son did not like unschooling. Once he understood we're doing school at home, he did not want unschooling. He was like, "No, I need structure. I need a beginning and an end." This is what I want to say. He was like 9 years old. He was like, "I need something that goes from start to finish." Um, so that's what he um wanted once he got older. It just does not work for me as they get older. I'm not organized enough, or I just didn't trust enough, but I just didn't think it was in their best interest. I decided this is me gonna be the leader. We're not unschooling past third grade. No judgment to people who do. And then once we got to high school, middle school, once we got to like 7th and 8th grade, I started getting more and more like, okay, this is your schedule, like going to school. But the unschooling philosophy followed me throughout, even now. Because for me, the unschooling philosophy is largely, I really have to let my children help me to understand how will they best learn, and then I need to understand what are they interested in. I need them to be leading, guiding, and directing some of what was going on. And so I would change curricula in a heartbeat. I never cared. I was always looking to see what makes this easiest for them to learn. But the other part of this is this quote I want to read to you. And he said, "To trust children, we must first learn to trust ourselves." And most of us were taught as children we could not be trusted. And so it is, pretty much in everything that I have talked about today is we have to have a trust in ourselves. We have to have a belief in ourselves. And there is a level of doubt that it's kind of hard to shake as a parent because we've never done it before. And you really get to understand as your children get older, you think you have control of your children, but you do not. They are going to do what they want to do. And if you get a child who's ultra compliant, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes an ultra compliant child might be a child who has been controlled a lot, and this is how they're coping with being controlled. Some children are more compliant, they're just natural people pleasers, but I've seen even the most compliant children always go through some type of rebellious stage. And it just makes parents kind of doubt themselves. And I do want to say, trust and believe your child is gonna make you someday just be like, oh my gosh, did I mess up? It to me, that's just part of it. It's just what's supposed to happen. So just know your day is coming. So don't walk around. And I say this with a lot of love. I am the most proud mom. You can be proud of your child, but don't be putting your child up on a pedestal like they're better than everybody else's child, because they are not. Um, your child is gonna make you be humble one day, right? So this is why, in my opinion, this notion of trusting yourself and seeking to be the mom, the parent who your child really needs is so, so good. It allows for that flexibility. But most of us, we really and truly don't trust ourselves. We don't trust our children. And, we let society pressure us. And so I just encourage you, you've got to learn to trust yourself. And the only way to do it is just to get in there and just say, today, this is the decision, or even in this moment, this is the decision that I'm making. And I'm trusting, I'm making this with a good heart. I'm making it with, my child's best interest in mind. And I'm gonna trust that this is gonna get me to where I wanna go. Even if some days it's like, oops, that wasn't the best move. I can trust myself to fix it. There's some regrets that I have, and I even brought it up with my kids, and they're like, I don't even know what you're talking about, lady. I'm like, whew, thank you. But yeah, it's like my children, I messed up at times. And then I was like, well, you know what? That sucked. I'm not gonna do it again. I'm gonna fix it. It's just like, and I trust that that's enough. And if it's not, I will do whatever I have to do. I will go to the ends of the universe if I need to get this thing right. But I will trust myself, and I will trust myself no matter what. Even in situations with my children where I'm like, I don't know. I don't have any control, and I don't know what's going on. I don't know why my child is feeling this way or acting this way. Um, I'm going to trust myself, I'm going to yeah, a lot of times we need the most trust when we're doing something that probably bucks up against our own, like, how we were raised. So for instance, me choosing to not spank. Actually, that was easy. I was like, there's no way. It was just no way. But people pushed back against me. I really got a lot of pushback. They were just like, good luck with that. um, or homeschooling. Oh my gosh. I can't tell you how many people. Well, when you gonna send them to school? I am not. Unless they decide they want to. I have friends whose children were just like, this is not working for me. Send me to school. They send their children to school. It's the best thing that they could have done. They trusted themselves. They trusted their child. Okay. Okay. So let me see here. So yeah, it's just really important to do your work, become the best version of yourself that you can be for you, and you're going to show up and be an amazing mom, an advocate and supporter for your child. This is Tyra. Thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you. Know that I'm cheering for you. I know I can get a little bit hard. Uh, I can get a little bit tough, but it's all in love. All right. Trust yourselves, moms.